And I said, there will be water, electricity, and trees, and especially the trees. And one way or the other, we bought it. Part of the reason, we still didn't have any money. We had about $800 at this point. But I had a lot of facility with my canvases then, and bartering, exchanging, and we were living much higher along the line. And, but in buying the land, which was very, very inexpensive, I was able with him to say 5 years, no papers, no contract, no anything. So the house we built was nothing to do with the city, nor the state, nor an architect, nor an approval.
No
It
legality,
just was done.
no.
But this was back when, before computer and at a different time. And Americans could do no wrong or something like that, I guess. Anyway, he sold me the land, and it's true. It took 5 or 7 years or so on to actually pay it off, which gave me the room. And we went to work. We built a home.
Everybody wanted to know why we built something so big. That was my fault. Because I
12,000 feet big.
have no idea how to add 2 and 2. And certainly I couldn't convert centimeters into inches or anything like that. I drew up the plans in inches and they built in centimeters. And it got big.
It's a good story, but not quite like that.
Sort of.
It's true, she drew up the plans and we built it. And we drew it based on where we were. We were living in a 21-room house as it was. So if you're going to take your next step along the line,
21 rooms seems
we
pretty
just
good.
figured how large the family was going to be in maybe 15 years, and whoever was going to take it over, and how far we could go, and that's it. It wasn't a question of largeness, it was a question of a Spanish farmhouse and a Cortijo. And that's why I asked, you've been to Spain and whatnot, on your next trip, if you do go and whatnot. This is one you got to see. It's
The house will be there.
it's something. Anyway, and we built it, and we were in it within a year, all out of local labor. And no plan, really. When Barbie says she drew a plan, she drew an outline, and that was it. But every day in the work, we would say what would come the next day. So you saw it sitting, and there were no revisions, but each day it just picked up and up and up and up. And we were very enamored before that. We'd done a lot of traveling to Cordoba and Seville and Granada, and we were apparent that the government was getting involved in tourism and was ripping down a lot of beautiful old buildings, old by 500 years, 15th century, 16th century, usually in the Jewish quarters, because the Jewish and the Gypsy quarters were more or less the same, and though these buildings were beautiful, no valley nada. They weren't anything because they were in the Jewish quarter. So they were ripping them down to put up hotels. And there's a thing called the Rebo, which is wreckage material. And there was a way we found out and made our contacts in each place. And with canvases, not with money, with paintings, people who like paintings, traded for the wreckage material. But we're talking 40 to 45 10-ton truckloads full of bricks, of roof tiles, of doors, old doors, some furniture and going, not that much, of all beams, huge beams, squared like that, that were 25 to 30 feet long, all hand carved out of monasteries or out of this and that. And whatever we got, we threw into the house. So we never knew what was going to go in until the truck arrived, and a little, not changes, but we just made another door, made it higher, made it this and that. So it ended up at some 12, 13,000 feet. And not a tree on the land, nothing. And then we went to work on trees. And there are 3,000 trees there now, and they're huge and towering. My son's just taking some photos of them. Because of the trees, the house is going to last anyway because it's built with walls that are 1.30 meters thick, Well, you're talking like this on the wall, and of the rock and the land. All this rock that Barbie looked at, and not a bush and whatnot. We cleared the rock off the land, not with tractors. There were no tractors. Wheelbarrows and men at $1 a day and so on. Cleared all the rock off, and these houses were built in the 16th century with rock and then mud in the inside, and like a plaster of Paris, all natural materials, and that became the house. And they stayed, and we know many houses at the time from the 15th century that the walls were still up. Well, we went to copy it, except we used cement and steel along with the rock, not mud. And so that house is really, really built.
The locals, all our neighbors for miles around, were peasants, very simple people.
As a nice word, not an American connotation at all.
No, they were farmers. They were, they ran little stores in the village, and they were not sophisticated at all. They spoke Spanish, no English. They had almost no contact at all with foreigners. There would be, in each little village, maybe one television station, one television set. And it was pretty primitive. We had people coming up from the coast, friends that we had made in the years that we'd lived there. They were a little amazed, appalled, whatever, but they enjoyed. They swam in the pool, they played tennis on the tennis courts, and then they went back down to the coast, and God knows what they said to their friends down there. But we did keep seeing most of our closest friends, but it was interesting.
We were self-contained, really. We were riding horses. We were doing whatever we were doing. We took off on trips across Europe every year for about 30, 40 days, usually with the kids. Skiing in Granada, if you looked up in the morning and there was snow way in back of Malaga and the Granada, if there was school, and school was education at home, not self. So we brought in our people and had a school set up just for the 3 kids. But it was off when you go up skiing for a couple of days and come down. We rode every single day, and then this huge animal congregation grew little by little. That became very much part of our way of life. Eagles, owls, all kinds of birds of prey. Somebody once brought us up a Siberian tiger.
What every family needs.
A baby, yeah, to care for. They couldn't at the local zoo and whatnot, which you kept for 6 months. Had a chimpanzee in residence for 6 or 7 years and whatnot. But they all, macaque, monkey, all kinds of things. And the kids were involved with all of this. And their education, yeah, we brought a tutor up who lived with us there, and then little by little. So it was really self-contained. It wasn't a question of who you had in company. Company didn't really start until, and it wasn't out of loneliness that we did it, in building the museum, which is a different facet of time frame. We built it in 68 and 69, and by 82 I had this accident, and I had a problem with my heart. So the museum started in 82 and 83, but we had been in the place for 12, 13 years without it.